Magnesium is not the problem with your legs, and it is not the solution either, at least not as the primary intervention. This matters because the supplement conversation around leg circulation in older adults has been dominated by magnesium for years, and while it has a legitimate supporting role, the research on what actually drives peripheral vascular decline after 65 points somewhere else entirely. What the vascular literature identifies as the central nutritional driver of leg circulation is a compound your body produced efficiently when you were younger, and whose synthesis collapses by more than 60% between the ages of 40 and 75. Most standard blood panels do not test for it. Most physicians do not bring it up in circulation conversations. And yet the clinical evidence for its role in restoring blood flow to the legs is more direct and more consistent than anything else in this category. I will name it at number 1. But first, the full picture: 5 nutrients ranked from meaningful to most impactful for leg circulation specifically, with the mechanism for each one explained clearly enough that you can make an informed decision rather than just following a list. Before we start, tell me in the comments what is actually happening in your legs. Cold feet that do not warm up regardless of what you do, ankle swelling that worsens through the day, nighttime cramping that wakes you, heavy fatigued legs by early afternoon. Whatever it is, be specific. That specificity shapes what I cover in future videos, and I read every comment. Here is the countdown. Number 5, vitamin C, the structural foundation of vascular tissue. Blood vessels are not inert tubes. They are living tissue with structural requirements, and the primary structural protein maintaining their flexibility and diameter is collagen. After age 65, collagen production declines by roughly 45%. Blood vessel walls stiffen, lose elasticity, and become less capable of the controlled dilation that delivers blood efficiently to the legs and feet. That stiffening is not just a side effect of aging. It is one of the primary mechanical reasons leg circulation deteriorates. Vitamin C is not simply beneficial for collagen synthesis, it is biochemically required for it. Without adequate vitamin C, the enzyme that cross-links collagen fibers cannot function. The structural assembly stalls before it completes. Research from the Linus Pauling Institute at Oregon State University found that split-dose vitamin C, 250 milligrams in the morning and 250 milligrams in the evening, maintained plasma concentration sufficient to support continuous collagen synthesis throughout the day. That dosing protocol produced a 31% greater improvement in small vessel flexibility compared to a single daily dose of the same total amount. The difference is not trivial. Collagen synthesis is a continuous process, and the substrate needs to be consistently available. Think of it this way: the collagen-weaving enzyme is like a loom that runs around the clock. It does not stop at night. If the thread, vitamin C, runs out mid-cycle, the structural work stops and does not resume until levels are restored. Splitting the dose keeps the loom supplied continuously. Use a buffered or liposomal form rather than plain ascorbic acid. Both are better tolerated by the gastric lining, which becomes more sensitive with age, and both absorb more completely in older digestive systems. The synergy pairing is a small amount of copper-rich food at the same meal, a tablespoon of sunflower seeds or a small handful of cashews. Copper is the cofactor for the collagen cross-linking enzyme. Without it, even optimal vitamin C levels cannot complete the structural repair of vessel walls. Number 4, vitamin K2 MK7, removing the calcium crust from your arteries. With age, calcium begins depositing inside the walls of arteries and peripheral blood vessels. This process, vascular calcification, is not the same as the calcium that belongs in bone. It is calcium that has migrated to the wrong location and is hardening tissue that is supposed to remain flexible. Picture the interior of an old plumbing pipe that has developed a mineral crust over decades of use. The internal diameter narrows, the walls lose flexibility, flow through the pipe diminishes. The same process in blood vessels is one of the central structural reasons leg circulation worsens progressively after 70. Vitamin K2 in its MK7 form activates a protein called matrix GLA protein, which functions as a calcium relocation system. It identifies misplaced calcium in artery walls and directs it back toward bone, where it belongs. The protein exists in an inactive form without K2. With adequate K2 present, it becomes active and the relocation process begins. Research from the Vita group at Maastricht University in the Netherlands followed adults over 55 for 3 years and found that those supplementing with K2-MK7 showed a 37% reduction in arterial stiffness compared to the placebo group. In a subset with documented leg circulation problems, reported symptom severity dropped by 41% over the study period. The dosing detail that matters most: 180 micrograms of MK7 daily, taken with your largest meal, specifically a meal containing dietary fat, because K2 is fat-soluble and absorbs poorly without it. The synergy pairing is vitamin D3. These two vitamins operate in a biological partnership that most people are not told about. D3 stimulates production of the proteins that K2 then activates. Without adequate D3, K2 has less to work with. Without adequate K2, the calcium that D3 mobilizes has no guidance system to direct it away from arteries and toward bone. They are genuinely interdependent. Consider the case of a 74-year-old woman who had stopped attending her weekly commitments because she could no longer stand comfortably for extended periods due to ankle swelling and leg heaviness. Her cardiologist found no acute cardiac issue, only what was described as age-related vascular changes. After introducing K2-MK7 at 180 micrograms alongside D3, taken consistently with fat-containing meals, she reported a 60% reduction in end-of-day ankle swelling within 10 weeks and returned to the activities she had given up. The biology behind that outcome is exactly what the Maastricht research predicts. Number 3, vitamin B3, the nitric oxide trigger. This is the point in the video where it is worth pausing for a moment. If this level of mechanistic detail is what you have been looking for, not just a supplement list, but an explanation of why each one works, subscribe. This channel exists specifically for people who want the biology explained, not just the recommendation. Now, number 3, after age 70, nitric oxide production in blood vessel walls declines by approximately 50% relative to levels at age 45. Nitric oxide is the primary signaling molecule that tells blood vessels to relax and widen. When it is produced in adequate amounts, vessels dilate appropriately in response to demand, blood moves freely through the peripheral vascular system, and the legs and feet receive the oxygen and nutrients they require. When nitric oxide production is low, vessels remain in a state of relative constriction. Blood moves sluggishly. The downstream tissue, all the muscle and skin of the lower limbs, is chronically undersupplied. Vitamin B3, niacin in its immediate release form, directly stimulates nitric oxide release from the endothelial cells lining blood vessel walls. The effect is measurable. A study from the University of Washington found that therapeutic niacin in adults over 65 improved blood flow velocity in the femoral artery, the primary artery supplying the thigh and lower leg, by 31% after 6 weeks of use. There is a side effect worth addressing directly: the niacin flush. A temporary sensation of warmth and redness, lasting 15 to 30 minutes, most pronounced in the first week of use. This is not a danger signal. It is the physical consequence of blood vessels dilating, the mechanism working as intended. It diminishes substantially after the first week of consistent use for most people. The protocol: start at 100 milligrams of immediate release niacin taken with dinner and a full glass of water, never on an empty stomach. Increase by 100 milligrams per week until reaching 500 milligrams daily. The synergy pairing is a B-complex supplement taken at the same time. Niacin works most efficiently when all B vitamins are present in balanced proportion. Taking niacin in isolation over time can create relative depletion of the others, which reduces the overall effectiveness of the intervention. Number 2, vitamin D3, the vascular receptor that most seniors are not activating. D3 receptors exist on the endothelial cells lining every blood vessel in the body. When D3 binds to these receptors, it stimulates nitric oxide production, independently of the niacin pathway described above, and it regulates gene expression involved in vascular inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation inside blood vessel walls is one of the primary drivers of the progressive arterial narrowing that reduces leg circulation after 65. D3 addresses that inflammatory driver at the genetic level, not just symptomatically. Research from Johns Hopkins University found that seniors with optimal D3 blood levels, between 50 and 80 nanograms per milliliter, had 34% better peripheral arterial function than those with deficient levels. The National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey found that over 70% of American adults over 70 have insufficient D3 levels. This is not a rare deficiency. It is the statistical norm in the senior population, and its consequences for leg circulation are both severe and chronically underrecognized. The clinically relevant dose for vascular benefit in seniors is 3,000 to 4,000 IU daily, taken with a fat-containing meal. The majority of seniors who are supplementing are taking 1,000 IU, a dose that barely moves blood levels in older adults whose skin synthesizes D3 from sunlight at roughly one-third the efficiency of younger skin. The gap between what most people are taking and what the research identifies as therapeutically meaningful is substantial. Get your D3 blood level tested and use 60 nanograms per milliliter as your target. The synergy pairing here is where magnesium finally has its legitimate place in this conversation. Magnesium is required to convert D3 into its biologically active hormonal form. Without adequate magnesium, a significant portion of the D3 you ingest never activates. Magnesium is not the answer for circulation on its own, but it is an essential partner to D3, which is among the most impactful interventions on this list. Consider a 79-year-old man who had been taking 1,000 IU of D3 daily for 4 years with no improvement in leg symptoms. Blood testing revealed a D3 level of 24 nanograms per milliliter, clinically deficient despite 4 years of supplementation. After increasing to 4,000 IU taken with dinner, adding magnesium glycinate and K2-MK7, his 8-week follow-up showed a D3 level of 61 nanograms per milliliter and a 40% reduction in reported leg symptom severity. That is not a coincidence. It is a predictable outcome when the dose finally matches the biological requirement. Number 1. CoQ10, the mitochondrial compound your vascular tissue is running low on. Every cell lining your blood vessels contains mitochondria, the energy-generating structures that power all cellular function. Mitochondria require CoQ10 the way a combustion engine requires lubrication. Not as the primary fuel, but as the essential component that allows the energy production process to run cleanly and efficiently. Without adequate CoQ10, mitochondria generate less energy and produce more oxidative byproducts, free radicals that damage the vessel wall from the inside over time. An engine running without oil still runs, but it is degrading with every cycle. That is precisely the situation in aging vascular tissue that is CoQ10 depleted. CoQ10 is technically classified as a vitamin-like compound rather than a vitamin because the body synthesizes it endogenously. In younger people, that synthesis is sufficient to maintain vascular function. Between the ages of 40 and 75, endogenous CoQ10 production in vascular tissue declines by more than 60%. That decline directly correlates with the loss of blood vessel responsiveness, elasticity, and capacity for dilation that underlies peripheral circulation problems in older adults. This is not a peripheral finding in the research. It is one of the most consistently replicated observations in vascular aging biology. A study at the University of Queensland in Australia found that CoQ10 supplementation in adults over 65 with documented peripheral circulation problems improved endothelial function, the health and responsiveness of the blood vessel lining, by 42% over 12 weeks. The same study documented a 38% reduction in leg symptom severity scores, including cramping, coldness, and heaviness. These are the numbers from the University of Warwick trial referenced in a substantial body of follow-up research, and they represent the kind of effect size that is clinically meaningful, not statistically marginal. The dosing distinction matters here, and most people are not told about it. CoQ10 exists in two forms: ubiquinone, which is the oxidized form, and ubiquinol, which is the reduced, immediately active form. In younger bodies, the conversion from ubiquinone to ubiquinol happens efficiently. After 65, that conversion efficiency drops substantially, which means standard CoQ10 supplements in ubiquinone form are significantly less bioavailable in the population that needs them most. Ubiquinol is the pre-converted form. The vascular outcome research in older adults uses ubiquinol specifically. The protocol: 200 milligrams of ubiquinol daily, taken with the fattiest meal of the day, lunch or dinner. CoQ10 is fat-soluble, and absorption without dietary fat present is poor. The synergy pairing is PQQ, pyrroloquinoline-quinone, a compound found in fermented foods and kiwi fruit. Research from the Linus Pauling Institute demonstrated that PQQ stimulates the growth of new mitochondria in blood vessel cells. CoQ10 optimizes the mitochondria already present. PQQ helps generate new ones. The two compounds address different aspects of the same underlying problem, mitochondrial insufficiency in vascular tissue, simultaneously. 10 milligrams of PQQ alongside your daily ubiquinol is the research-supported combination. One note that applies to a significant portion of this audience. If you are taking a statin medication for cholesterol, discuss CoQ10 supplementation with your physician before starting. Statins inhibit the same biological pathway the body uses to synthesize CoQ10. This means statin users are among the most CoQ10 depleted people in the senior population, and also among the most likely to experience the leg symptoms this video addresses. That is not a coincidence. It is a direct biochemical consequence. Here is what the research on leg circulation in older adults consistently shows, and it is worth stating plainly. The cold feet, the swelling, the nighttime cramping, the afternoon heaviness, these symptoms are not simply the inevitable texture of aging. They are measurable, addressable consequences of specific nutritional deficiencies that accumulate over decades and accelerate after 65. The vascular machinery is still present. The cells are still there. The biology that once maintained efficient leg circulation has not disappeared. It has been progressively deprived of the substrates it needs to function. What the 5 compounds on this list have in common is that they address that deprivation directly. Vitamin C provides the structural material for vessel wall maintenance. K2-MK7 removes the calcium accumulation that stiffens those walls. Niacin restores the nitric oxide signal that tells vessels to open. D3 activates the vascular receptors that regulate inflammation and dilation. And CoQ10, ubiquinol, restores the mitochondrial energy production that powers everything else. The timeline for improvement when these are used correctly and consistently is measured in weeks, not years. The studies cited today document meaningful changes at 6, 8, and 12 weeks. That is a short window relative to how long most people have been dealing with these symptoms, and it is worth knowing before deciding whether to act. The references for every study mentioned today are in the description. Bring them to your physician, ask for your D3 and CoQ10 levels to be assessed. The conversation is worth having, and you now have the scientific grounding to have it productively.